The scariest moment is just before you start.
Stephen King was born on September 21st, 1947, to parents Donald and Nellie. His father stayed 2 years into King's life, when he apparently left to get cigarettes and never came back. King's mother tried very hard to raise him and his adopted brother. Due to the low financial status, they were forced to move all around the country from Des Prairies to Connecticut. One day, when his family finally moved back to their hometown of Durham, Maine, King stumbled upon a book in his basement called The Lurker in the Shadows, one of the first horror stories that King has ever read.
Fast forward a few years to grade school. After reading novels and short stories of horrific and traumatizing things, he finally came to witness a horrifying event in front of his own eyes. He watched as his friend was hit and crushed by a train right in front of him. Traumatized, he returned home not saying a single word to anyone, acting as if he wasn't there. This event haunted him for the rest of his life and ignited his passion for creating horrifying stories. Stephen is a world-famous horror novelist that took the world by storm with his first successful story, Carrie. Carrie is about a girl in high school that is bullied, made fun of because of her mother's insane passion for her religious belief. The novel earned over $400,000 and was eventually adapted into a movie twice, and a third time coming again later this year.
Stephen King worked under several different publications, such as The Dark Tower, a comic book company endorsed by Marvel, and Michael Jackson, whom he worked with to create a 40-minute musical called Ghosts. King is the author of hundreds of short stories and at least 50 different novels. Along with Carrie and The Dark Tower, he wrote Salem's Lot, The Shining, The Stand, Misery, It, and 1408. One of his notable short stories, 1408, was eventually adapted into a psychological film in 2007, starring John Cusack as Mike Ensling, the protagonist of the story.
1408 is about an intellectual and rational man that travels across the country with rumors of a haunted area. All rumors that Mike Ensling came across were disproven by him using rational explanations. However, Mike eventually comes across a rumor that the room 1408 in the Dolphin Hotel in New York City was haunted, and that anybody who checked into the room would never come out. The hotel reported 56 deaths in the past 95 years, and that no one lasted more than an hour inside the room. Mike, who doesn't believe in any kind of paranormal activity, insists on staying in the room to disprove any kind of supernatural being that may lurk inside.
He closed his fingers around the handset and picked it up. His other hand dove, as deliberate as the first, and dialed 0. As he put the handset of the phone against his ear, he heard a series of clicks as the dial spun back to its original position. It sounded like the wheel on Wheel of Fortune. Do you want to spin, or do you want to solve the puzzle? Remember that if you try to solve the puzzle and fail, you will be put out into the snow beside the Connecticut Turnpike and the wolves will eat you. There was no ring in his ear. Instead, a harsh voice simply began speaking. This is 9, 9. This is 9, 9. This is 10, 10. We have killed your friends. Every friend is now dead. This is 6, 6. Mike listened with growing horror, not at what the voice was saying, but at its rasping emptiness. It was not a machine-generated voice, but it wasn't a human voice either. It was the sound of the room. The presence pouring out of the walls and the floor, the presence speaking to him from the telephone, had nothing in common with any haunting or paranormal event he had ever read about. There was something alien here. No, not here yet, but coming. It's hungry, and your dinner. Dearborn looked up, and it seemed this was crazy, but it seemed the door to the room the man had come out of was filled with the burning light of an Australian sundown. The hot light of an empty place where things no man had ever seen might live. It was terrible. That light, and the low buzzing like an electric clipper that was trying desperately to speak. But it was fascinating, too. He wanted to go into it. He wanted to see what was behind it. Perhaps Mike saved Dearborn's life as well. He was certainly aware that Dearborn was getting up, as if Mike no longer held any interest for him, and that his face was filled with the blazing, pulsing light coming out of 1408. He remembered this better than Dearborn later did himself, but of course Rufe Dearborn had not been reduced to setting himself on fire in order to survive. Mike grabbed the cuff of Dearborn's slacks. "Don't go in there," he said in a cracked, smoky voice. "You'll never come out." Dearborn stopped, looking down at the reddening, blistering face of the man on the carpet. "It's haunted," Mike said, and as if the words had been a talisman, the door of room 1408 slammed furiously shut, cutting off the light, cutting off the terrible buzz that was almost words. Rufus Dearborn, one of Singer Sewing Machine's finest, ran down to the elevators and pulled the fire alarm. Through events of the story, Mike was able to survive a whole hour, but still not able to leave the room. Mike felt traumatized with how the room messed up with his mind. People would often commit suicide in the room because they couldn't take it anymore, rather than the room killing themselves. Mike recorded every single thing that happened to him in the room by talking to a tape recorder, even a conversation in the room with his dead daughter. After escaping the room by burning it down, he returned to his wife, who was sure that everything was all a hallucination and did not really happen. She listened to the tape recording and could hear their long-dead daughter speak to Mike. To talk more about Stephen King, Delano decided to write a song about him.
What's up, everybody? It's Stephen King. You know, I became pretty successful, wrote a lot of books, made a lot of money, but I want y'all to know it wasn't always like that. I'm here about to tell you about my struggle. Alright, here we go. I'm Stephen King, I was born in September and my father was a seaman. He met my mom and then they had me and then they adopted another kid. But when I was 2, my dad went to go buy cigarettes and I guess he got lung cancer cause he never came back. My mom had to raise me and my brother by herself and it was hard cause she didn't have a lot of money. Then I found a book in my attic and I thought it was cool and it made me want to become a writer. Then me and my friend in grade school went to the train tracks and I bet him he couldn't jump over a moving train. I was right, went to college in Maine and I met my wife, we got married and after we had our first kid. And now I'm super famous and I wrote a bunch of books and they got turned into movies. And my wife and kids tried writing stuff too, but they'll never be as good as me, cause I'm Stephen King. Yeah, I'm Stephen King, oh. I got hit by a car. It was going really fast and it hit me pretty hard. It hurt really bad. Yeah, I'm okay. Stephen King.